Story 1. The office that wasn't on the lease. I've worked in enough soulless corporate buildings to know they all feel the same after midnight. Fluorescent buzz, stale air, and the creeping sense that you're the last idiot left alive in the city. That night was no different. I just wrapped up a branding deck for some startup that thinks it's reinventing water, and I was riding the elevator down from the 27th floor, half asleep and dreaming of greasy diner eggs. Then the elevator jolted. Not stopped, jolted. Like something yanked it sideways. The panel blinked, and suddenly we were on the 13th floor. Which is funny because this building doesn't have a 13th floor. I know that for a fact. I've worked here on and off for years. It skips from 12 to 14 like every other superstitious skyscraper in Manhattan. But there it was, glowing red, 13. I should have stayed put. Should have pressed the button again and gone home. But I was tired and curious and maybe just dumb enough to think it was a glitch. So I stepped out. The hallway was narrow, dim, and smelled like a thunderstorm had passed through a library. Ozone and paper. Every door had a nameplate. None of them made sense. Until I saw mine. It wasn't just my last name on the door. It was my full name, etched in brushed metal like I'd been working there for years. I hesitated. Tried to laugh it off. Maybe someone else had the same name. Maybe this was some elaborate prank. But the hallway was silent. No cameras. No movement. Just that low hum in the walls like the building was breathing. I reached for the handle. It was cold. Not just cool, cold like it had been sitting in ice. I pushed the door open. Inside was my office. Not similar. Not close. Was mine. Same desk. Same chair with the busted wheel. Same coffee mug with the chipped rim and the faded "Designers do it with layers" slogan. Even the monitor was on, tabs open to the same reference images I'd used earlier that night. I stood there, frozen, waiting for someone to jump out and yell, "Gotcha!" But no one came. I stepped closer. The air felt heavier in there like the pressure had shifted. I looked at the screen. My inbox was open. But the emails, they weren't mine. They were from names I didn't recognize. Some sounded vaguely familiar, like clients I might have pitched to but never landed. Others were just wrong. One was from a woman named Elise M., asking if I'd finalized the edits from the 24th. Another was from someone called Jared, Night Ops. No last name with the subject line, "They're starting to notice." I scrolled down. Every email was dated 2 weeks ahead. Not a single one from today. Not even spam. Just a full inbox from a future I hadn't lived yet. I clicked on one. It opened like normal, but the text flickered for a second like it was being overwritten. Then it stabilized. "Don't leave anything unlocked. Not again." That was all it said. No greeting. No signature. I backed away from the desk. My heart was thudding now, loud enough to hear in my ears. I looked around the room. Everything was still. But something felt off. The shadows didn't fall right. The corners were too dark. And the window showed a skyline that didn't match. It was New York, but older. Like a photo from the 90s. I reached for my phone to take a picture, maybe send it to a friend and laugh about it later. But the screen stayed black. Wouldn't turn on. No matter how long I held the button. I checked my pockets. No charger, no backup battery. Just me and this replica. I turned back to the desk and noticed something I hadn't before. The mug. It was still warm. Steam rising. Someone had just been here. Or was still here. I spun around, expecting to see movement. But the door was closed. I hadn't closed it. I walked over and tried the handle. Locked. I didn't hear it click. Didn't feel it move. It was just locked now. I knocked once. Then again. No answer. I started to feel stupid, like I'd wandered into some kind of immersive art installation. But the fear was real. My palms were sweating. The air smelled different now. Less like ozone, more like something sour. Like old milk. I turned back to the monitor. The inbox had changed. New email at the top. No subject. Just one line. "You're not supposed to be here." I stared at the screen, waiting for it to change again. It didn't. Just that one message, pulsing slightly like it was breathing. I moved the mouse. Nothing. Tried the keyboard. Dead. Then the lights flickered, once, twice, and the monitor shut off. Total darkness, except for the faint glow from the hallway seeping under the door. I backed away slowly, bumping into the chair. It rolled a few inches, then stopped. But the sound it made, it echoed. Too loud for such a small room. Like the space was bigger than it looked. I pressed my ear to the door. Nothing. No footsteps. No voices. Just that low hum again, vibrating through the metal. I knocked once more, softer this time. Then I heard it, a knock back. Not from the hallway. From inside the room. Behind me. I turned, heart hammering, and saw the closet door. I hadn't noticed it before. It was slightly ajar. Something moved inside. Slow. Deliberate. I didn't wait. I lunged for the office door, yanking the handle with everything I had. It gave way, not unlocked, just surrendered. I stumbled into the hallway, gasping like I'd surfaced from underwater. The lights were dimmer now. The nameplates on the other doors had changed. Some were blank, others had symbols instead of letters. I didn't look twice. I ran to the elevator, slammed the button. It opened instantly. No delay. Like it had been waiting. I stepped in, hit the lobby. The doors closed. The panel blinked. No 13th floor. Just 12, then 14. I got out on the ground floor, bolted through the lobby, and didn't stop until I was halfway down 7th Avenue. I came back the next day. Had to. Needed to know if it was real. Asked the front desk about the 13th floor. They laughed. Said there's no such thing. I checked the directory. Nothing. But here's the part one can't explain. When I opened my laptop, my inbox had 3 unread emails. All from names I didn't know. All dated 2 weeks from now. One of them just said, "You left it unlocked." I haven't gone back since. But I keep checking my door at night. 3 times. Always 3. If anyone's ever seen a place that shouldn't exist, please tell me I'm not the only one. Story 2. The janitor's route. I don't believe in ghosts. I believe in deadlines, caffeine, and the soul-crushing silence of an empty office after 9 p.m. That's why I didn't flinch when the elevator stopped on a floor I'd never seen before. I just assumed it was some weird maintenance thing. The button lit up, 13. Cute. I thought buildings skipped that number. I was already annoyed. My presentation was due at 8 a.m. and I'd stayed late to polish it. I just wanted to get home, microwave something regrettable, and sleep for 5 hours. The doors opened to a hallway that looked wrong. Not scary, just off. Dim lights flickered overhead, and the air smelled faintly of burnt plastic. The carpet was damp in patches, like someone had just mopped but didn't care about drying it. That's when I saw him, an old janitor, hunched over, dragging a mop in slow, deliberate strokes. He didn't look up, just kept moving like he was stuck in a loop. I said, "Hey," because I'm not rude. No response. I tried again, louder. Nothing. Just the wet slap of the mop against the floor. I figured he was hard of hearing or just ignoring me. Whatever. I stepped out, thinking maybe I could find the stairs, but the hallway stretched longer than it should have. I've worked in this building for 3 months and I know the layout. This floor didn't match. The walls were yellowed like old newspaper, and the exit signs buzzed faintly, flickering like they were tired of trying. I walked past the janitor, and for a second I swear he paused. Not like he noticed me, more like something in him glitched. Then he kept mopping, same rhythm, same blank stare. I reached the stairwell door and pushed it open. It was pitch black inside. No emergency lights, no echo, just a wall of darkness. I backed away, suddenly aware of how quiet everything was. No hum of AC. No distant traffic. Just the mop. I turned back to the elevator, ready to hit any button that would get me out. But the panel was dead. No lights. No buttons responding. I looked at the janitor again. He was closer now. still mopping, still silent. But the floor beneath him, it was dry, bone dry. I stepped back, trying not to panic. Maybe it was a power glitch. Maybe the janitor was just weird. I pulled out my phone to call building security, but of course, no signal. Not even Wi-Fi. Just a spinning wheel and a blank screen. I turned on the flashlight and aimed it down the hallway. The janitor had stopped. He was facing the wall now, mop still in hand, like he'd forgotten what he was doing. I called out again, this time with a little edge in my voice. "Hey, is there another way out?" He didn't move. I started walking toward him, slowly. I don't know why. Maybe I thought if I got close enough, he'd snap out of it. His uniform was old, faded, with a patch that looked melted at the edges. His shoes were soaked, leaving no footprints. I was about to tap his shoulder when he turned his head, just slightly, and I saw his face. It was wrong. Not scary, not monstrous. Just blank. Like someone had erased the details. No eyebrows. No expression. Just skin stretched too tight and eyes that didn't reflect light. I stumbled back, heart pounding now. I'm not proud of it. I cursed out loud and nearly dropped my phone. The janitor didn't react. He just turned slowly, mechanically, and resumed mopping. But the sound was different. It wasn't wet anymore. It was dry, scratchy, like dragging fabric over concrete. I turned and ran toward the other end of the hallway, hoping there was another elevator, another door, anything. The lights above me flickered faster, and the air grew thick, like breathing through a damp towel. At the far end, I found a door marked Maintenance. I yanked it open and stepped into a narrow room filled with cleaning supplies and rusted equipment. It smelled like smoke and something sweet, like burnt syrup. I slammed the door behind me and leaned against it, trying to catch my breath. That's when I saw it. On the wall, half covered by grime, was a photo. A group of janitors smiling. One of them was him. Same uniform. Same blank stare. The caption read, "In memory of those lost, October 1998. I didn't want to believe it. I told myself it was a prank, some twisted office joke. But the photo was old, yellowed, curled at the edges. And the date matched something I vaguely remembered hearing during orientation. A fire. Electrical. Took out half the floor. They said it was renovated and sealed off. No one mentioned a 13th floor. I opened the door slowly, peeking out. The hallway was empty. No janitor. No sound. Just the faint smell of smoke lingering like a warning. I bolted back to the elevator. The panel was lit again. I didn't care what button I hit. I just needed out. The doors closed and the elevator groaned to life. When it opened, I was back in the lobby. Bright lights. Security desk. People. I nearly cried. I rushed to the guard and asked about the janitor. Described him. The uniform. The mop. He went pale. Said no one worked that shift. Said the man I described died in the fire, trapped while trying to clear the floor. Said I must have imagined it. I didn't argue. I just nodded and left. Maybe I was tired. Maybe stress was messing with me. I went home, tried to sleep, but every time I closed my eyes, I saw his face, that blank, stretched skin and those hollow eyes. I told myself it was over. Just a weird night. Nothing more. But when I got to the office the next morning, something stopped. Me cold. Leaning against my door was a mop. Burnt. The handle blackened, the strands stiff and scorched. No note. No explanation. I asked around. No one saw who left it. No one knew anything. I didn't touch it. I just stared at it, heart thudding, waiting for someone to laugh and say it was a joke. But no one did. And now, I keep wondering. If I hadn't spoken to him, if I hadn't looked at his face, would he have followed me? Would he have left that mop? I don't know. But if anyone's ever seen something like this, a floor that shouldn't exist, a janitor who doesn't blink, please say something. I need to know I'm not the only one. Story 3. Beacon Hill Echoes. I've worked in real estate for 12 years and I've seen it all. Mold behind marble, rats in penthouses, even a guy who tried to sell me a haunted condo with great spiritual energy. So when I got assigned to show a newly renovated commercial space in Beacon Hill, I wasn't expecting anything more than overpriced brick and a broken thermostat. The building was old, sure, one of those 1800s brownstones with wrought iron railings and a lobby that smelled like lemon polish and regret. But it had charm. And charm sells. The elevator was supposed to be brand new. I had the inspection checklist in hand, ready to tick boxes and get out before the afternoon rain hit. I pressed the button for the top floor, 12 according to the blueprints. But halfway up, the elevator jolted. Not a soft lurch. A full body, stomach drop kind of jolt. Then it stopped. The digital panel blinked once and showed 13. I actually laughed. Out loud. Cute, I muttered. Someone's idea of a spooky prank. But when the doors opened, the hallway was wrong. Too narrow. Too quiet. And lined with mirrors that didn't belong in any commercial space I've ever seen. They were antique mirrors. Tall, ornate, with tarnished silver frames and glass that shimmered like water. Each one slightly warped, like they'd been stretched or melted just enough to make your reflection look off. I stepped out, heels clicking on the polished wood floor, and glanced at the nearest mirror. My reflection stared back, but something about the timing was wrong. I turned my head and it followed a beat too late. I blinked. It didn't. I told myself it was just bad lighting. Old glass. Maybe the elevator jolt had rattled me more than I thought. I walked down the hallway, clipboard clutched tight, trying not to look directly into the mirrors. But it's hard not to. They pull your gaze. I passed one where my reflection seemed taller. Another where it looked like I was smiling, but I wasn't. Then I reached the last mirror. I stopped. My reflection didn't. It kept walking. Come. Straight ahead. I froze. My breath caught in my throat. I turned around, expecting to see someone behind me. Nothing. Just the hallway. Just me. But in the mirror, I was gone. I backed away, heart pounding, and the mirror flickered like a bad signal. My reflection snapped back into place, standing still, eyes wide like mine. I let out a shaky laugh. Okay, that's enough, I said to no one. I turned to head back to the elevator, but the hallway stretched longer than before. I swear it had. The mirrors were still there, but spaced differently. The floor creaked under my steps, even though it had felt solid minutes ago. I pressed the elevator button. Nothing. No light. No sound. Just the faint hum of electricity and the distant echo of my own breathing. I pulled out my phone to call maintenance. No signal. Of course. I tried the stairwell door. Locked. I knocked hard. No answer. That's when I noticed the plaque on the wall, half covered by dust. It read, Dr. A.L. Mercer, Psychiatric Consultation. The name meant nothing to me, but the style of the plaque was decades old. I hadn't seen it on any of the renovation reports. I leaned closer. The dust smelled sweet, like old perfume, or something rotting under sugar. I stepped back, suddenly nauseous. That's when I remembered the story, something one of the contractors had joked about weeks ago. A patient who vanished. Elevator never arrived. I hadn't paid attention. I walked back toward the elevator, trying to retrace my steps. But the mirrors, they'd shifted. I swear they had. One was cracked now, a thin fracture running down the center like a scar. Another had fogged over, even though the air was dry. I passed the one where my reflection had walked away. This time it was standing still. But its head was tilted. Just slightly. Like it was listening. I stopped. Tilted my own head. It didn't move. I raised my hand slowly. It raised its hand, but not in sync. A second too late. Like it was copying me, not mirroring me. I turned and ran. I didn't care about protocol or property damage. I slammed my shoulder into the stairwell door. It didn't budge. I kicked it. Nothing. I screamed, loud, desperate. The sound echoed, but it didn't sound like me. It was thinner, higher. Like someone else was screaming with me. I spun around. All the mirrors were fogged now. Every single one. And behind the glass, not my reflection. Just shapes. Blurred. Watching. I pressed my back to the door, heart racing, and whispered, "This isn't real. This isn't real." But the hallway didn't care. Then a ding. The elevator. The panel above the door blinked 12. I didn't wait. I ran toward it, heels slipping on the warped floorboards. The doors opened. Empty. I stepped inside, slammed the lobby button. The doors closed. I exhaled. Relief flooded in. For a second. Then I saw it. In the mirrored panel above the buttons. My reflection. But it wasn't facing me. It had its back turned. I spun around. No one there. I looked back at the panel. My reflection was now smiling. What? Too wide. I reached up to touch the glass. My hand passed through it. The elevator dropped. Fast. My stomach hit my ribs. The lights flickered. Then silence. It stopped. Doors opened. Not the lobby. Not any. For I recognized. Just a dark hallway. No mirrors this time. Just peeling wallpaper and a single chair under a flickering bulb. I didn't step out. I couldn't. Something was breathing. Not me. Not close. But near enough to feel. I pressed the closed door button over and over. The doors didn't move. I whispered, "Please?" The bulb outside flickered once, then went out. I don't remember how I got out. I woke up in the lobby, lying on the cold marble floor, clipboard still in hand. No one saw me come down. The security footage showed the elevator never moved. Not once. I asked about the 13th floor. They laughed. Said there's no such thing. I checked the blueprints again. 12 floors. That's it. But I remember the mirrors. I remember the plaque. I remember my reflection walking away. And I remember the feeling, like something had followed me back. Now, every mirror in my apartment feels wrong. I've covered most of them. But sometimes, I catch glimpses. A lag. A smile that doesn't belong. I haven't slept in 2 nights. I keep thinking about that patient. The one who vanished. Maybe they never left. Maybe they're still in the glass. Or maybe, I brought something with me. If anyone's ever seen their reflection move differently, even for a second, please say something. I need to know I'm not the only one. Story 4. The Venice Beach startup. I've built 3 startups, tanked 2, and sold 1 for just enough to pretend I know what I'm doing. So when I moved into this sleek co-working space in Venice Beach, all glass walls, kombucha taps, and app-controlled everything, I thought I'd finally found a place that matched my vibe. No drama. No distractions. Just code, caffeine, and the occasional ego clash with other founders. That was the plan. Until last Thursday night when I took the elevator down for coffee and ended up somewhere I'm still trying to explain. The building's access system is digital. No buttons, just a touchscreen synced to your phone. You tap your floor, it takes you there. Simple. Except that night, around 2:17 a.m., the panel flickered. Just for a second. And then, 13 appeared. I laughed. Out loud. Because of course the haunted floor trope shows up in a startup hub. I tapped it, half joking, half curious. The doors closed. I figured maybe it was a maintenance level or some glitch. But when they opened, I wasn't laughing anymore. The lights were dim. Fluorescent but flickering, like they hadn't been replaced in years. Rows of cubicles stretched out in perfect symmetry, each one occupied. I mean it. Every single desk had someone sitting there, hunched over, typing like their lives depended on it. No music. No talking. Just the sound of keys clacking in a rhythm that felt wrong. Too fast. Too synchronized. I stepped out, expecting someone to look up, maybe ask who I was. Nothing. Not even a glance. I cleared my throat. Loud. Then said, "Hey, is this some kind of late-night dev sprint?" Still nothing. I walked past a few desks trying not to stare, but it was impossible. Their faces were pale. Blank. Eyes locked on screens filled with lines of code I couldn't decipher. Not JavaScript, not Python, just symbols. Like someone mashed a keyboard and called it a language. I leaned over one guy's shoulder. His fingers never stopped, but his lips moved, whispering something I couldn't hear. I backed away, suddenly aware of how quiet everything was, except for the typing. No air conditioning hum. No elevator chime. Just that relentless clatter. I pulled out my phone, started recording. Not because I thought I'd need proof, but because something felt off. Like I wasn't supposed to be there. I turned toward the elevator, but the doors were gone. Just a blank wall where they'd been. I blinked. Touched it. Cold metal. Seamless. No panel. No exit. Panic didn't hit me all at once. It crept in, slow and deliberate, like the chill crawling up my spine. I walked faster, then jogged, passing cubicle after cubicle. Each one identical, each worker still typing. I shouted this time. "Hello? Can someone tell me what the hell this is?" A few heads turned. Just slightly. But their eyes didn't meet mine. They stared past me. Through me. And then one by one, they started whispering. I couldn't make out the words at first. Just a low hiss like static wrapped in breath. I moved closer to one of them, a woman with long black hair covering half her face. Her lips were moving fast, too fast, like she was reciting something on loop. I leaned in, and that's when I heard it. My name. Over and over. Eli. Eli. Eli? I staggered back. Looked around. They were all saying it now. In sync. In whispers. My name bouncing off the walls like a curse. I ran. Didn't care where. Just needed to get away from that sound. I turned a corner and found a stairwell. Finally, something normal. I bolted down the steps, skipping 3 at a time, heart hammering against my ribs. When I reached the lobby, everything looked fine. Bright. Clean. The security guard nodded at me like nothing was wrong. I didn't say a word. Just walked out into the night air, trying to convince myself I'd imagined it. That maybe I'd fallen asleep at my desk and dreamed the whole thing. Back at my apartment, I couldn't sleep. I kept replaying it, the whispers, the blank faces, the symbols on the screens. Around 4 a.m., I pulled up the building's security app. It stores footage from every floor, every elevator ride. I found the clip from earlier. Me stepping into the elevator. Me standing inside. Then, nothing. No footage from a 13th floor. Just a black screen. But I was there. I know I was. I checked my phone recording, hoping for something, anything. The video was shaky, mostly dark. But the audio, it was all there. Dozens of voices whispering my name. Some slow. Some frantic. Some sounding like me. I dropped the phone. Just let it hit the floor. I didn't pick it up for hours. When I finally did, I noticed something else. The timestamp on the recording didn't match the elevator ride. It started 5 minutes before I even left my desk. Before I tapped the panel. Before the number 13 ever appeared. I haven't gone back to the building. Haven't touched the app. I told my team I'm working remotely for a while, blamed it on burnout. But every night around the same time my phone lights up. No calls. No messages. Just the screen flickering like it's trying to show me something. I checked the audio file again yesterday. There's a new voice now. Just one. Clearer than the rest. It says, "Come back. We need you." And then, it laughs. I don't know what that floor was. I don't know if it's real or if something's wrong with me. But I swear, I wasn't alone. If anyone's ever worked in a building with a hidden floor, or heard their name whispered by people who shouldn't exist, please say something. I need to know I'm not the only one. Story 5. The client who never left. I used to work in legal archives for a mid-sized firm in Seattle. Nothing glamorous. Mostly scanning old case files, digitizing depositions, and organizing boxes no one had touched in decades. The building was old and our department was in the basement. Fluorescent lights, no windows, and that constant hum from the server room next door. You stop noticing it after a while. There was one hallway we didn't use. Technically it was part of our floor, but it had been sealed off years ago. The story was that a pipe burst and flooded the storage rooms, and they never got around to fixing it. The door was always locked and no one had a key. At least that's what I thought. One Friday evening, I stayed late to finish scanning a box from 1987. The lights flickered, not unusual, but then the hum stopped. Total silence. I thought the servers had gone down, but when I stepped into the hall, everything was still powered. Except the sealed hallway door. It was open. I don't know why I walked toward it. Maybe curiosity, maybe something else. The air was colder and the lights inside were dimmer, like they hadn't been replaced in years. The floor was damp. I remember that clearly. And the smell, not mold exactly, but something metallic. Like rust and old blood. There were file cabinets lining the walls. Hundreds of them. I thought it was strange they hadn't been moved after the flood. I pulled open one drawer. Inside were case files, but not from our firm. Not from any firm I recognized. The names were unfamiliar. The dates were wrong. Some were from the future. I found one with my name. Not just my first name, my full name. It was a deposition. I read the first few lines and felt sick. It described an event I hadn't experienced yet. A car accident. A lawsuit. A settlement. All dated 6 months from now. I dropped the file and backed away. The drawer closed on its own. I tried to tell my supervisor the next day. He laughed. Said I'd been working too hard. I asked about the hallway. He frowned. Said there was no hallway. I showed him the door. It was sealed shut. Welded, actually. Like it hadn't been opened in decades. I felt like I was losing my mind. I went back that night. I brought a flashlight and a crowbar. The door was still sealed, but the metal was warm. I pried at the edges, but it wouldn't budge. I pressed my ear to it. Nothing. Then a thud. Just once. Like something falling. Or someone knocking. I stopped going in on Fridays. I avoided that side of the building. But things started showing up on my desk. Files I hadn't requested. Cases I wasn't assigned. All with dates that hadn't happened yet. One was about a fire in our building. Another about a missing employee. Then one about me again. I checked the firm's database. None of the cases existed. I asked IT if someone was messing with me. They said my login had been used after hours. But I hadn't been there. They showed me the footage. It was me. Or someone who looked exactly like me. Same clothes. Same movements. But I don't remember it. Yesterday I found a new folder on my desk. No one saw who left it. No one admitted to placing it there. It had my name on it. My full name. Inside were documents I'd never seen before. A deposition I never gave, a signature I never wrote. And a death certificate. What? Dated next week. I stared at it for hours, trying to convince myself it was a joke. But the handwriting on the note tucked inside was the same. I never left. I checked the archive system. My profile was gone. Replaced by a closed case file. I haven't gone back to the office. I don't know if I'm supposed to. I keep thinking about that hallway, the cold air, the flickering lights, the way the drawers seem to breathe. I don't know what that floor really is, or who's still on it. But if anyone reading this works in legal archives, especially near Seattle, please check your files. Look for changes. Look for notes. And if you ever find one with your name on it, please tell me what to do. I need to know I'm not the only one.